Today's top international development centers on escalating United States military operations in Latin American waters. As Washington confirms the killing of 8 people in a series of new attacks on vessels in the Eastern Pacific Ocean, the announcement comes amid an expanding U.S. military buildup across the Caribbean region, particularly near Venezuela, raising fresh concerns among international law experts, regional governments, and global observers. According to a statement released by the United States Military Southern Command, also known as CENTCOM, U.S. forces carried out what were described as lethal kinetic strikes against 3 separate vessels in international waters on Monday. The strikes were conducted under the direct authorization of U.S. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. Southcom stated that 8 people were killed in total during the operations, with 3 deaths reported on the first vessel, 2 on the second, and 3 on the third. The U.S. military has claimed, without presenting public evidence, that the individuals killed in these attacks were linked to drug trafficking operations. Southcom maintained that the vessels were targeted as part of ongoing efforts to counter narcotic smuggling in the region. However, the lack of transparency surrounding the evidence and targeting process has fueled sharp criticism from international law experts and human rights advocates. These latest strikes follow a pattern of similar U.S. military actions near Venezuela that have intensified since September. Reports indicate that at least 90 people have been killed in dozens of U.S. attacks on vessels operating in the Pacific Ocean and Caribbean Sea near Venezuelan waters over the past several months. Legal experts have described these operations as possible extrajudicial killings, questioning their legality under international law and the rules governing the use of force in international waters. The controversy has also reached Washington, where U.S. lawmakers have questioned Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth about his role in approving the strikes. Lawmakers have raised concerns about a previous incident in September, in which a second U.S. strike reportedly targeted a vessel after 2 individuals survived an initial attack and were left clinging to debris. Questions remain about whether Hegseth personally authorized that follow-up strike. The Pentagon has defended its actions by pointing to an expanded military deployment across the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico. This deployment includes U.S. warships, a submarine, drones, and fighter jets. U.S. officials say these assets are being used to disrupt drug smuggling networks operating in the region. The military buildup marks one of the most significant U.S. security operations in Latin America in recent years. Tensions have been further heightened by the recent seizure of a Venezuelan oil tanker by U.S. forces off the coast of Venezuela. The tanker's seizure occurred just days before the latest attacks in the Eastern Pacific. US President Donald Trump addressed the incident publicly, stating to reporters, "I assume we're going to keep the oil." The remark has drawn strong reactions from Venezuelan officials and regional observers. Venezuela has sharply condemned both the vessel attacks and the broader U.S. military buildup. The Venezuelan government has accused Washington of using anti-drug operations as a pretext to exert control over the country's natural resources. Officials in Caracas stated that the actions were aimed at allowing external powers to rob Venezuela's immeasurable oil and gas wealth. The situation has been further complicated by growing U.S. military cooperation with neighboring Caribbean nations. Trinidad and Tobago announced on Monday that it had authorized U.S. military aircraft to use its airport in the coming weeks. That government said the access would be used for logistical operations, including supply replenishment and routine personnel rotations. Trinidad and Tobago is located just 12 kilometers from Venezuela at its closest point, making the decision strategically significant. The country has been one of the more vocal supporters of the U.S. military presence in the region, her remarks underline. The strong security stance taken by her government amid rising regional tensions. In response, Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro reiterated that Venezuela would halt gas supplies to Trinidad and Tobago. According to Venezuelan state television channel Televisa, Maduro made the announcement on Monday, signaling a further deterioration in relations between the 2 neighboring countries. The U.S. military presence in the Caribbean has expanded rapidly in recent months. Fighter jets, including F-35 aircraft, have been deployed to Puerto Rico, joining U.S. warships already operating in the southern Caribbean. A U.S. Air Force Boeing C-5 Galaxy was recently photographed at José Aponte de la Torre Airport in Cipa, Puerto Rico, highlighting the scale of U.S. logistical operations in the region. Washington has accused Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro of leading a drug cartel, an allegation Venezuela has repeatedly denied. The Trump administration has cited these accusations as justification for its military actions, including drone strikes and vessel interdictions near Venezuelan waters. One such drone strike in the southern Caribbean reportedly targeted a boat that had departed Venezuela and was suspected of transporting drugs. 11 people were killed in that operation, according to U.S. officials. President Trump later claimed that the vessel was operated by the Venezuelan gang Terran de Aragua, though details surrounding the claim have not been independently verified. As U.S. military operations continue, concerns are growing over the potential for escalation in the region. The combination of lethal strikes, tanker seizures, and expanded military access to regional airports has raised fears of a broader confrontation involving Venezuela and its neighbors. International law experts continue to question whether the United States has the legal authority to conduct lethal strikes in international waters under the framework of drug enforcement. Critics argue that such actions blur the line between law enforcement and military warfare, particularly when carried out without judicial oversight. Meanwhile, regional leaders remain divided. While Trinidad and Tobago has openly supported U.S. operations, other governments in Latin America have expressed unease about the growing militarization of the Caribbean and Pacific corridors near Venezuela. As of now, the United States has signaled no intention of scaling back its operations. Southcom has emphasized that its mission will continue, citing national security concerns in the fight against drug trafficking. Venezuela, on the other hand, has warned that the actions threaten regional stability and violate international norms. The unfolding situation represents a critical moment for the Caribbean and Latin America, as military activity, diplomatic tensions, and resource disputes converge. With lives already lost and regional alliances shifting, the consequences of these actions are likely to be felt far beyond the waters where the strikes took place. This remains a developing story, and further updates are expected as governments, international organizations, and legal bodies respond to the growing crisis in the region.